I'd just like to thank everybody for coming to our webinar today. I think this is the last one that we have scheduled for right now, but there are going to be more in the future. We're going to put together that list hopefully by the end of this week or beginning of next week in terms of where our next plan for the webinars and the schedule for that. So stay tuned in terms of our schedule on webinar series. Today we have Austin from Convergent with us. Just a rundown on how we're going to do the agenda. If you guys haven't joined us before, we'll do a brief introduction. We'll read Austin's bio. Austin will give his presentation, and then we'll go through a Q&A session. Vasco's going to send a message here shortly into the chat bar. So if you guys have any questions whatsoever, feel free to send them through that chat bar, or also down at the bottom, there is a Q&A button that you can hit, and it pops up automatically on our screen what questions you guys have. So feel free to ask those questions throughout the presentation, and then we'll address them at the very end. After the Q&A session, we'll do our giveaway, which is today's giveaway is going to be a $75 Visa gift card, courtesy of Convergent. So thank you guys for that. And we will draw that name at the very end as well. So again, thank you guys for joining us. Real quick, we're going to go through Austin's bio. Austin has his bachelor's in business management from Utah Valley University. Some of his hobbies are a college football fan. He has 2 kids, a 2-year-old boy and a 7-month-old girl. In the industry, he has 4 years in the polishing concrete industry and 6 years with Convergent Concrete Technologies. Recently, Austin became a rep for the US and Canada markets. Previously, he represented Latin America for Convergent. So thank you, Austin, for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So today we're going to talk about a few different products that we offer at Convergent. And this is kind of an overview of these products. The Penta Cure MH, the MH stands for membrane hardener, because it creates membrane and also functions as a hardener. Penta Finish HG, high gloss, a glossy sealer, used a lot at the end of polishing processes. Can also be used on a steel trowel finish and leaves a pretty good appearance. The Penta Protective Coating is very similar as far as look to a paint, but it's much more durable and a very thin coating, but is very abrasion resistant and much more chemical resistant than a typical paint. So we'll talk a little bit about each one of those products. But first, so with the Penta Cure, because it's a cure and densifier together, we'll kind of just hit the basics of a densifier, which is silica, which when the silica molecule reacts with the calcium hydroxide. So that creates a whole different chemistry, which is calcium silicate hydrates, which is a lot more dense and less porous than the concrete is previously. So I'm sure plenty of you have used densifiers, so you are very familiar with how it all works. This is just a picture of a concrete floor magnified 200 times before being treated and after, so you could get an idea of kind of how porous it is previously and then after. So it's kind of like when you apply the densifier, you're actually creating more concrete in those little pinholes, and it's almost like a sponge being filled with the material. So a cure is also something that's pretty essential to the process of concrete. There's many different ways to do a cure. The purpose is to keep the concrete hydrated so that it can become completely dense and hard without losing all the moisture. That will cause cracking, and it'll become a lot less hard. And just long term, if it's not cured properly, it's not going to really hold up to the abrasion and everything else that goes with the floors. So many times people use a curing compound, which creates a membrane when it's applied to the surface, and that membrane does the job of keeping the moisture into the concrete slab. So here's a picture of a job that was done with the Penta Cure, and questioning kind of why would you use this product over a typical cure or a typical hardener. And there's a few reasons why we recommend and think that it's a really good product for any application, really. A lot of industrial projects like it because it saves a lot of time. It meets the ASTM standard for curing, for membrane curing, because as the product works, the densifier will penetrate and react, and it leaves a membrane on the surface that keeps all that moisture in. So you're getting the functions of the densifier along with the functions of a cure. And that increases the abrasion, the densifier, about 45%, up to 45%, depending on how hard the concrete is to begin with. If it's a very dense, high PSI concrete, you're gonna have a little less increase in percentage because it's already very hard. And then it also will increase the hardness. It allows the cure and hardener to be applied at one application instead of two. So a lot of floors, they'll apply the hardener, come back and apply the cure, or you cure, remove the cure, and then apply a hardener. This will kind of take out that middle cleaning process, so it saves a lot of time on really big projects. That's really one of the biggest benefits, is that, you know, if you have a giant project, you could save weeks by applying one product the two products at one time instead of having to work with two different products in the cleaning process. The membrane that it creates, we have a cleaner that's Penta Clean CR that does a really good job of removing the membrane. We've tried other cleaners, and to be honest, the way that the CR works, it just breaks it down really well with black pads and a scrubbing machine and cleans that cure off really well. So I'm gonna play a video. This one doesn't have any sound to it, so I might talk a little bit through it so that just to explain a few of the things that go about this cure. This is a video we made a few years ago about the Penta cure. So the RST is what I was explaining about how the densifier will actually penetrate and react, but it leaves the membrane on the surface. So when you get the product, it's going to be like in that picture. It separates, so you have to mix it really well before applying. And it's applied pretty much exactly like you would apply most cures and most densifiers and hardeners. You spray it on and just make sure that you have everywhere covered, and the cure will end up turning white as the video shows, and that's the membrane on the top. So then this is a little bit about the cleaner that we use to remove the curing membrane. What you do with it is we can sell it in gallons, pails, or in these little packets. They're 4-ounce packet, and that'll go into a 15-gallon scrubber machine. You scrub it and let the water sit on the surface. You let it just soak for 15 minutes or so. And then you go back and re-scrub it and remove, and most of the cure comes off in that pass. So it really does a good job of breaking down the cure. The Penta cure can also be used in polishing processes or jobs that require polishing. It's typically the same process. You'd apply the cure densifier at the beginning of the project, you'd remove the cure, and then just start your polishing process after that once it's been removed. So it's been used on quite a few jobs so far. I know Boeing has built a few facilities, and it's been used on their projects, and it's been really good, and it just helps them speed up those projects on the bigger things that they need done. So The next product we're going to talk a little bit more about, and hopefully we'll have some questions at the end about the Penta Cure that we can maybe talk about some more or answer anything that you guys want to know more about. The next product is Penta Finish. So this picture in the background is a steel troweled floor that had Pentrasil IH, one of our densifiers, and then one application of Penta Finish put on. And you can see that even a steel trowel floor, if it's done well, is going to get a pretty good sheen and pretty good shine out of it. It's an Easton Archery facility in Magna, Utah. So the Penta Finish is a topical sealer that the first application, you're going to have a little bit of penetration with the lithium that's going to react. And then the next coats are going to build up a very thin microfilm. And that film is what creates more of the protection and the gloss. And that film protects against staining, abrasion, traffic, and will help maintain the surface longer. So if you do a polish process, the whole floor has been polished, you put all that work into it with all the diamonds and everything, you get to the end, the Penta Finish, what it does is it helps protect that floor beneath. So instead of wearing off that shine from the concrete, the Penta Finish is what gets worn off or abused instead. So the maintenance can be done with the Penta Finish instead of having to go back in and do a full grind and full polish. You can just clean and reapply the Penta Finish. So it helps a lot in the maintenance process as well. It's not trying to take away from anything with polishing. More than anything, it's trying to help protect all the work and polishing that's been done previously. Once it's been applied, the maintenance is pretty simple. You usually, with water and neutral pH cleaners, you're able to clean most things fairly easy. If during the life of the floor it begins to dull and you lose a lot of the shine, many times you can hit it with a high-speed burnisher and a diamond impregnated pad, and it's going to bring back a lot of that shine. If that doesn't work, it's good to do maintenance as far as reapplying the finish. And we usually recommend 2 coats. That will give you back kind of the full life of the floor. As long as you don't wait too long to where the concrete's being worn away, you'll restore the floor pretty much to right when it was brand new. And here's just a couple pictures of projects that were done with the Penta Finish. The one up here was, I think, polished to 400 is about where they stopped on that one, and this one was done to 200 is all. So it took, these were kind of special projects in that way. They didn't want a whole full polish and a 3000 grit shine. They just wanted something that was a little bit good shine, but something that was easy to clean. So the Penta Finish did that. And here's just another video of the Penta Finish being applied to give you an idea of the application process for it. Okay, so that floor that was done in that video was not polished. It was just a steel trowel finish that they'd cut the joints to make it kind of look like a tile. And we at Convergent don't do projects and don't do jobs. We sell the products, the chemicals, but for the video, we had this opportunity to do a little shop here and locally, so we were able to shoot that video to kind of give an idea of how the product works, the application, and just to help a little bit more when people want to apply it. You can find all the videos on our website, and that'll give you an easy way to see how it's done. The Penta Protective Coating is the next product we're going to talk a little bit about. This was an application done in Texas at a garage that works on vehicles. So the Penta Protective Coating, like I explained earlier, it's similar to a paint in the way it looks and applies. So comparing it to epoxy or another thicker type of material, it's not quite the same as far as application or how you're going to get the type of look. It's a lot thinner. It's a micro coating. So any imperfections in the floor, it's not going to fill those in and make it so that it's 100% just a smooth top surface. You're going to have to prepare the surface beforehand, whether that's filling in some pinholes or if you're grinding, just making it so it's a smooth surface before the application, and that'll help a lot in the final results. It's a very abrasion resistant and stain resistant coating. In comparison to epoxies, urethanes, it does very well as far as abrasion. It doesn't hold up quite as well to acid stains or acids or really harsh chemicals. It is breathable, so that's a benefit, that it won't pop, peel, flake, bubble, or anything like that. And the repair is pretty easy. If you have an area that's been damaged or worn, you can hit it with a black pad on a scrubber, clean it really well, let it dry, and reapply the product just like you did the first time, and it'll blend together pretty seamlessly. So here's another quick video that will give you an idea of how this product works. So that video showed the coating, which we have two brands for it. The Penta Protective Coating is more of the industrial, which is the colors that are used in an industrial application typically. Our Color Fast line is the same product, but with a different variety of colors, more for the decorative market. So they're both the same product, same application, same process, just different names depending on kind of the color scheme that you're going for. So here are two different jobs that were done with the protective coating. One is a parking garage, the other is a manufacturing facility, where they were prepped with 200. They ground the floor and then prepped up to a 200 before applying the product. This is a hotel in Cancun, or in the Cancun area. that also use it on their pool deck, and it's been, I think this was about 3 years ago that they did, so that's another application that was done with the Penta protective coating. So that's it for the PowerPoint. I wanted to thank you for listening, and hopefully we have some questions for me.
Thank you again, Austin. That was awesome. Again, it's funny. We've been, for me personally, we've represented and we still represent all sorts of companies and products and everything else. And throughout this week of webinars, I found that watching all you guys and presenting all your presentations, I myself am gathering all sorts of knowledge and new things that I did not know. For instance, with your coding, that was very informative and pretty amazing product there. So that opens up my eyes to all sorts of avenues that we can take that as one of your distributors. So guys, again, thank you all for taking the time and joining us live today on this webinar. And if you have any questions or you want to know certain things about the product, right now is your time to not hear it from your distributor, but to hear it from the man himself from Convergent. So please feel free to ask away. If not, I do have some questions for you myself that I'd like to know. So let's give it a few moments and see if anybody has any questions.
Looks like there's a question there from Ricardo. The PPC, yes, we do have a clear base, and then you can mix pigments into it. So if you want the clear base, that's definitely an option. As you apply, it'll look kind of a milky white, but it dries clear. Sorry, Kristen, sorry to cut you off.
That's okay. How thick do you need to apply that PPC down onto the concrete? Is it just 1 or 2 layers? How the thickness of it, how is that?
It's really thin. It's a micro, so on almost an micron level, instead of, when talking about most coatings, we talk in mils.
Mm-hmm.
It's smaller than most mils, so you're really, really thin. And we recommend with the coating to apply 2 or 3 thin applications over 1 heavy application.
Got it.
That allows partly because the coating bonds really well to the concrete itself. It doesn't have any tensile strength, which means that it doesn't bond to itself on the surface. So if you were to take a razor blade and scratch deep, you're gonna scratch it, but you're not gonna have any peeling or flaking or anything from that scratch. It's gonna scratch just in that one spot, and which makes it a lot easier to repair as well. But it's very, very, very thin.
Got it.
Thanks.
So Austin, I've got a few questions for you, and to be completely honest, I actually installed my first coating just this past week. As much as I've been around floors, I've just never personally gotten hands-on with coating. So I learned a lot. And for those of you out there that don't know, I live in Houston, Texas. So we have a pretty vigorous climate down here, when it comes to humidity, when it comes to, crappy concrete, all sorts of variables that come into play. So I wanted to ask you, and this is a pretty vast question. I don't want you to just focus on your coating product, but I want you to talk to me a little bit about your densifiers, your sealers, and how those chemicals react in different climates. Because we got people from all over the world here. We got people in humidity. We got people that are in dry desert heat in Arizona. So it's always interesting to me how chemicals react in certain different climate zones.
Okay. Yeah, I'll talk to that a little bit. So we have certain chemicals as well, kind of depending on the climate. So we have a product called Penta Shield, which was taken from the 244 Plus. The 244 Plus is one of our best, it's the best densifier that we manufacture.
It's the Cadillac.
Yeah, exactly. It was meant for bridge decks, concrete bridge decks for freeze thaw to help protect against the salt and all of the damage that they get. And so the Penta Shield was another product taken from that for cold climates, freeze thaw cycles that go through a lot of that, and it prevents spalling and helps prevent it. I mean, if you apply it in the beginning, it does a really good job of preventing that. You still may have some spalling because there's so much more that goes into the spalling than just, you know, the top application. The process of pouring the concrete's way more important than most other things. So we do have products kind of depending on the climate, but for example, the coating, it's been applied in almost anywhere. The key is making sure that the ambient temperature is above 40 degrees Fahrenheit when it's applied. Otherwise, it's going to freeze just like a liquid, and then you're going to have those issues. But as long as you have the right, you know, temperature and it's not too humid, the humidity will make it so that it doesn't dry quite as quickly. But for example, that project in Cancun, it's pretty humid there. They're right along the coast, but they have a breeze, so it dried relatively quickly being out in the sun. If it's an enclosed area where it's a little cooler with humidity, it's going to dry a little slowly. You'll just have to wait a little longer between coats. So that's the key with that coating. But every other one of our products has been tested in really any climate around the world. So they function about the same.
What would you say the cutoff marker is for as far as heat goes? We're talking about freeze, but like, is there a cutoff marker for, let's say, if the temperature is above 90 degrees Fahrenheit, or, you know, what would you say is like the sensitivity marker for that?
So I think even more than the air or ambient temperature, you're going to be wanting to focus on the concrete or the surface's temperature.
Yeah.
So if you're applying it, you know, in the morning and the temperature outside is already really warm, but the concrete's still pretty cool,
Okay.
you're not going to have any issues. But if you are applying it in the evening, the temperature might be cooling off outside, but the floor is going to be a lot hotter. You could have some flash drying to where, I mean, I think if you've applied any densifier really on a floor that's outside, no roof, in the middle of the day, in the middle of the summer, somewhere that's really hot, as soon as you apply it, it pretty much dries and turns to a kind of crystallized powder. Ours will do that as well if you're applying it in extreme heat and on a floor that's really warm. So one thing you can do to combat that is use a lot of water and wet down the slab, and then let it start to dry out. And before it's completely dried out and warm again, you can apply the product, and that'll allow it to have the dwell time necessary to function. So that's a really good question, because that does happen quite a bit.
And that's an awesome pointer right there, because, you know, a lot of people don't know that, you know, and I had experience, you know, working in the field polishing and grinding, where we would actually pre-wet the slab just to kind of cool it off and get it to that right slab temperature, so that way the product can do what it's meant to do. So that's an excellent pointer. I appreciate that. And you pretty much jumped into my last and final question to talk about the 244 plus. And, you know, I know you explained it in a panel of what makes it so special, but, you know, for those of you guys out there that have not tried it, like Austin said, like I mentioned, it is I would say one of the best, if not the best, densifiers out there. I can't get all scientific with you like he can, but I can just say, you know, the final results speak for itself. And, you know, we've done a lot of presentations side by side with Convergent on, you know, our products and other vendors' products, you know, and the results have just been incredible. So for those of you guys who have not tried it, I will really encourage you to reach out to one of us at Runyon. We'll get you a small sample, get you to give it a shot and see what you think. But if there's no more questions out there from any of you guys, I think that pretty much wraps it up. We're going to pass it over to Kristen. She's going to do the drawing to see who's the lucky winner of the $75 gift card, and we'll call it a day.
Awesome. So the name that we picked at the beginning today was Patricia Mazzo. So Patricia, if you can reach out to me, Kristen at Runyon Surface Prep, and send me your contact information, I will make sure that we get that $75 gift card sent out to you. And we really appreciate everybody for coming today to the webinar. Thank you for those who came for the past 2 weeks during this pandemic. We hope everybody's staying safe and staying healthy. And we hope that we get to see you guys out there in the field, hopefully pretty soon.
Soon, very soon.
Thank you.
All right, guys, have a great day. Again, Austin, thank you, and thank your whole team on behalf of Runyon. And we'll talk soon. Hopefully, see you soon.
Thank you, everyone. Stay safe. Take care.
Bye, Austin.